Are we living in a world of order and integrity, or of government cover-ups and satanic cults? No, of course not, you might say. Well then why was this set of videos removed from YouTube, the largest video sharing site in the world? We're going to be delving into a series of conspiracy theory videos and trying to work out whether the points made are just nonsense and can be disproven, or whether they contain some unsettling truths. Join me as I explore the work of Janet Osabod in the fall of the Cabal.
Let's start with the recent forest fires, for instance in California. Did you know that these fires forgot to burn trees? That they were capable of cutting through houses?
While this may seem odd, there is actually an explanation for this. In residential areas, trees and shrubbery is often maintained through regular watering. An old dried up tree in the middle of a forest, where these fires originated, is much more flammable than these suburban trees. Houses actually contain much more flammable materials, such as fuel, carpets, and curtains, as well as structural timber, which is much drier than the trees outside. This could explain why the house is burnt, but the trees still stand.
That they burn trees from the inside out?
Now, in another video by a YouTuber called Harry Hole, he finds that the trees in the area were infected and the insides of the tree were much more fragile and flammable than the tough exterior, explaining this phenomenon.
That they were able to lift cars, tilt them, and smash them down? Are you sure these are ordinary forest fires?
Usually cars contain fuel. When this fuel is burnt, it ignites, causing an explosion. This explosion can exert enough force to knock a car over, such as in these images.
And how about this one? We live in a world where mercury is considered highly toxic, but not when we inject it into children in absurd quantities.
While vaccines of the past did contain a preservative called thiamersal, which is a mercury compound, this compound is completely non-toxic and is safe. Just as table salt, which we consume, is sodium chloride, it contains some chloride, which on its own is poisonous, although salt is perfectly safe to consume. This compound is now no longer included in vaccines anyway, as doctors now use one-time only syringes. As a side note, please get your children vaccinated. The small risk of side effects are massively outweighed by the disease protection.
No doubt you've heard about chemtrails. Denied by our governments for a long time, but recently acknowledged and referred to as geoengineering aerosols. They are sprayed into our atmosphere to protect us from global warming. The thing that makes me go however, is the fact that we're sprayed with heavy metals, which are stored in our brains, where they have proven to cause Alzheimer and Parkinson's disease.
Chemtrails have long been debunked by scientists. Aeroplanes cause contrails, which is nothing more than condensed water vapour caused by the heat of the engines against the cold surrounding air. Well, it's still possible they release chemicals into the atmosphere within these contrails, I hear you shout. Well, this would involve every pilot, every air traffic controller, every member of ground crew giving no notice to these polluting gas tanks attached to every single aircraft. Logistically, this is just impossible. The most common images used to try and prove chemtrails are actually of test aircraft using water tanks to simulate the weight of passengers.
And did you know that in many countries, among which my own Holland, we have to explicitly say no to organ donation, for if we don't, our organs will be property of the state as soon as we are declared brain dead? The last time it was arranged this way by law was during the Nazi occupation.
This one is more a matter of opinion. Personally, I'm happy to donate my organs to help medical research once I've passed on, but I also understand people who don't. This is why the government offer the option to opt out. I really don't see the problem with this.
Did you know that our current Pope is the first to state that hell does not exist, but the devil does?
This is actually true. In 2017, Pope Francis says, "He is evil, he is not like mist, he is not a diffuse thing, he is a person, I'm convinced that one must never converse with Satan. If you do that, you'll be lost.
Isn't it weird that the Vatican's audience hall is full of references to reptilians? Snakes? Serpents?
Again, this is very true. At first I didn't notice it, but if you look closely, this building looks exactly like a snake's head, both inside and out.
Did you know the Vatican's telescope is called Lucifer?
The Vatican does indeed own a telescope based in Arizona. However, it was not named by the Vatican themselves, but by some scientists with a dark sense of humour. Still, creepy.
And since when does the Pope make the sign of the devil?
These images are real. However, they were taken while the Pope was visiting the Philippines, and this is a popular hand signal meaning, I love you.
9/11. Whereas one bird can cause terrible damage to a plane, on 9/11, 2 planes managed to cut through steel.
Obviously, 9/11 was a horrible event in which many people lost their lives. However, it is important to talk about. From my understanding, it wasn't so much the plane that cut through the steel than the force of the explosion that the plane created. The plane was eviscerated on impact, and what remained was embedded in the tower. The fuel on board created the explosion.
A 3rd plane mysteriously disappeared in a building, and number 4 plunged into the earth without leaving any debris or bodies.
From what I saw, the Pentagon was badly damaged, and there wasn't so much of a plane carcass as a scattering of metal panels, which is to be expected when you consider the damage just one bird can do.
The planes were piloted by terrorists who only had a few flying lessons in a small Cessna.
While it is true that great skill is needed to land a large aircraft safely, these terrorists weren't landing, they were crashing. The controls in both of these planes are actually very similar, using a yoke to control pitch, roll and yaw, and a handle to control the throttle. All the hijackers needed to do was grab the yoke and pull it to the correct position.
Then there are the horrid attacks on innocent people, in which the same victims can survive up to 3 different attacks.
At first I thought this was very suspicious, but when I looked into it further, he was actually only present during 2 and only injured in 1 of those. This is very unusual, but I think that's where it ends. Again, this woman was actually only present during 1 attack. She was just staying in the same city as the other 2. This is not that uncommon.
This lucky young man survived being shot in the head. All he needed was a band-aid.
While the bullet did technically go into his head, it didn't perforate any large blood vessels or go anywhere near his brain. This guy was just very lucky.
And thank God not all victims are people of flesh and blood.
I have no idea on this one. These could very well be stage photos.
What do you think about this one? Are you a parent? Are you aware of the fact that children cartoons contain subliminal messages of sex and violence? Why?
There is no end of videos all over YouTube about the overt sexuality of some cartoons. This is a strange one, and I have no explanation. This might be one for another video.
Did you know that fully grown fetuses can be legally aborted in many American states?
I'm not going to go into this one. Whether you think it's right or wrong, as everyone has a different opinion. This one is very subjective.
Okay, let's have a look at the migrant caravan. Thousands of people fled their South American homes to look for a better future in the US. The trip covered 2,000 miles in 1.5 months in order to be on time for the American midterm elections as a political statement against President Trump. This means they walked an average of 45 miles a day on flip-flops, barefoot, like this and like this.
At first I was shocked at this one too. However, after looking into these images further, most were not taken in the same time frame as the migrant caravan, but they may still have been used inaccurately by the media.
Why do Hollywood celebrities promote the use of facial creams containing the foreskin of baby boys? Do you realize that these foreskins are actually sold? That it's a trade?
Amazingly, this is actually true. While only one foreskin sample is needed to grow lots and lots of cells, they do all originate from real baby foreskin. These cells can also be used to treat burn victims.
Did you know that diseases such as AIDS, Zika, SARS, and Ebola are actually patented? Do you know when something is patented? When it's man-made. Man-made diseases, are you kidding me?
The actual disease that infects people in the real world is not patented. Only genetically modified versions of diseases can be patented, as they have been modified by humans and are someone else's intellectual property.
Your cell phone, laptop, tablet, and your TV contain spyware that works 24/7, no matter whether your device is switched on or off. This means you are constantly being monitored.
I can offer a little more information on this, as it's my area of expertise. Sure, all devices have the ability to be infected with spyware and the ability to record audio and or video. However, to record and monitor the whole population would require such a vast number of people to work, to watch and listen to this footage, such unimaginably huge storage devices to save all of this information to, that it would be legitimately impossible to monitor everyone, not to mention the amount of bandwidth worldwide that this was chew up. It just isn't plausible.
Number 3. In 2018, Monsanto, known for its genetically modified seeds and crops, plus its poisonous weed killer Roundup, was bought by Bayer, a chemical giant that produces mostly poison. In other words, our food supply is now largely controlled by the producers of carcinogenic poison. Monsanto started off producing Agent Orange.
As much as this one disturbs me, I don't think there's anything untoward going on. A company which already specialises in creating chemicals will have the know-how and the equipment to create other chemicals. And while I don't like the idea of the cross-contamination, I'm sure one of these workers in these massive factories creating the fertiliser would blow the whistle on any food poisoning. Therefore, this seems very unlikely. Agent Orange, on the other hand, could be a whole other video.
Number 2. In 2018, Hillary Clinton admitted that she deleted 33,000 emails from a private server used as Secretary of State. Not only that, she used a hammer to smash her cell phones, SIM cards and hard drives.
This one's a classic. Hillary's emails. This isn't so much a conspiracy theory as just facts. She did in fact delete 31,000 emails 3 weeks after her subpoena. We will never know what they contained.
Number 1. President Obama received the 2009 Nobel Peace Prize only months after his inauguration. Why, for God's sake? He came from nowhere and had achieved nothing at the time. In the following 8 years, he invaded 7 countries and dropped a bomb every 20 minutes.
Again, this is actually true. Despite bombing several countries and being responsible for many deaths, Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize.
But how did WikiLeaks obtain the evidence of the Clinton corruption? It was leaked by an employee of the Democratic National Committee, Seth Rich, who was subsequently found dead with 2 bullets in his back.
This would make a great story, but it was confirmed by law enforcement working the case that this was not true. He was simply murdered by a robber. Or was he? For me, this seems slightly suspicious. Most of the counter-arguments come from sites such as Snopes, which have been proven to be politically biased. If this case could come to light and incriminate Clinton, don't you think the Clinton Foundation would pay handsomely to keep detectives from spilling the truth? This is just speculation though, there is no evidence for this. This video was evaluating just one of a 10-part series. If you want to see me analyse the other parts, leave a like and a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.